Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we dive into the world of business filings. Today we're cracking open the latest 10K from Oncotelic Therapeutics. It's going to be a roller coaster of biotech dreams and financial realities. And while we can't promise a miracle cure for cancer, we can guarantee a deep dive into their money moves. Let's start with a quick overview. Oncotelic is a small biopharma company trying to make it big in the world of cancer treatment. They are looking at rare pediatric cancers and TGF-beta 2, which sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. They're not just doing it alone. They've got joint ventures and partnerships galore. One thing that jumps out is their focus on rare pediatric disease designations. Basically, if they get a drug approved for a rare kid's disease, the FDA gives them a voucher. This voucher is like a golden ticket that can be sold for a huge amount of money, millions in fact, so it can be a great opportunity for the company. They're also planning to take their joint venture GMP Biotechnology into an initial public offering or IPO. This could be a big payday for Oncotelic if it works out, but hey, no guarantees in the stock market, right? Alright, let's get into the meat of this 10K, starting with some important details at the top. Their commission file number is 02199, just in case you wanted to know. They filed their report for the fiscal year ended December 31, 2024. So we are looking at a full year of data to see how they performed. They say they're not a well-known seasoned issuer, which means they are probably a small company. As of April 14, 2025, they had about 408 million shares of common stock outstanding. This is just good information to have as we look at the rest of the filling. Now, before we dive deeper, there is a wall of text about forward-looking statements. It's a disclaimer basically saying, hey, we're making predictions, but who knows what will actually happen. Keep in mind that they could be overly optimistic in some of their plans, so take it with a grain of salt. All right, let's jump into the business overview. Oncotelic does business through a number of subsidiaries. They have Oncotelic Point Data, Pet2DO, and EdgePoint AI. It's like a whole alphabet soup of companies working together. The company is developing antisense and small molecule injectable drugs for the treatment of cancer. This is a fancy way of saying they're trying to develop drugs that target cancer in a very specific way. Their strategy to focus on rare pediatric designations is all about speed and efficiency. They hope that focusing on children's disease will reduce the cost of development and speed up the approval process. They're hoping their joint venture GMP Bio can go public through an IPO. That could be a big boost for Oncotelic's stock price if it happens. In September 2021, Oncotelic acquired the rights to an intranasal apomorphine asset for Parkinson's disease, erectile dysfunction, and female sexual dysfunction. So they are working on more than just cancer. They also have a vascular disrupting agent in their pipeline. This sounds risky, but it targets the blood vessels of tumors, cutting off their supply. In November 2022, they formed Pet2DO, a decentralized autonomous organization. This is getting into blockchain territory. They are looking to develop products for the animal health space. Keep an eye on that. It's a bold move. One of their focuses is AL101 for treatment failure ED patients. There is a lot of talk about the absopal effect when talking about CA4P, basically a phenomena where radiation only in one tumor will cause regression of secondary tumors far away. Oxy4503 for acute myeloid leukemia is an attempt to treat AML for 730 people under the age of 20. TGF-beta 2 is a big deal for DIPG. It's an attractive molecular target for immunotherapy. In March 2025, Oncotelic announced success completing a phase 1 trial evaluating OT101, which is a positive step forward. They mentioned that artemisinin could be used to treat future viruses, but for now it is on hold. Finally, they are also working on AI-based technologies to enhance the development and commercialization of drugs. Their JV has acquired a non-exclusive license for the AI platform. Their plan is to start a manufacturing operation by the JV. Switching gears, let's talk regulations. To develop drugs, they have to get approval by the FDA, which can be a very long process. The FDA can also put a clinical trial on clinical hold at any time, which is never a good thing. Phase 3 testing might not even be completed, and clinical trials may not show any of their products to be safe. So these are important risk factors to keep in mind. Sometimes a drug can get approved faster if it shows an effect on a surrogate endpoint. This doesn't always guarantee clinical benefit though. They have orphan drug designation for some of their drugs, which means if approved, they get special treatment and market exclusivity for a while. They also have rare pediatric disease designations for DIPG, melanoma, and AML. This means more opportunity to make it through the FDA easier. They also need to deal with drug regulation in Europe, where it is called the EMA. They're going to have to fight to get insurance companies to pay for their drugs, which can be a challenge. Next up, protecting their ideas with patents and other things. As of April 14, 2025, they have 5 granted US patents and some pending applications. This is important to protect their technology in the US, Europe, Canada, and Japan. The Hatch-Waxman Act could give them a patent extension of up to 5 years, which is always helpful. Now it's time to talk competition. Big pharma companies like Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson. Those are some big boys. There are smaller biotechs too. All of them have greater financial resources than this small company. They will have to compete on factors like efficacy, safety, patient convenience, and price. The headcount is surprisingly small. As of December 31, 2024, they only had 26 full-time employees and 4 part-time employees. Good to remember, all employees and consultants were compensated by the JV in the last few years. Now, let's turn our attention to risks, and well, there are lots. If they can't get more funding, there is a real chance they will have to shut down. They had about $100,000 in cash on hand at the end of 2024 and almost $17 million in liabilities. Their accountants are concerned about their ability to continue as a going concern, which is a big red flag. If they sell more stock, it will dilute the value of existing shares. If they take on debt, it'll be even more dilution in addition to restrictive covenants. Due to lack of financial resources, the company may fail to select or capitalize on commercially promising indications or therapeutic areas. If things get better, they may not be able to manage their relationships with third parties and improve managerial development and operational and finance systems, all of which may impose a strain on our administrative and operational infrastructure. They may not be able to partner with other pharmaceutical companies. They need bigger partners to help them develop their drugs. They may not be able to successfully set up an IPO with third parties. They may not be able to successfully develop the product portfolio through our JV. They rely on outside manufacturers, so if those manufacturers mess up, Oncotelic is in trouble. Their drugs might not be safe or effective. Clinical trials can fail and regulatory approvals aren't guaranteed. Since their stock is essentially a penny stock, it could be hard to trade. That's not a good sign for investors. They admit they have weak internal controls. This could lead to financial reporting errors and scare off investors. They don't plan to pay dividends, so you're relying on the stock price going up to make any money. Another epidemic or pandemic could hurt their business. A lot of their assets are intangible, which means they could be worth less than they think. An earthquake or other disaster could disrupt their operations. Finally, they might fail to use the Dow technology properly. Let's move on to item 5, the stock market, where their shares trade. As of April 14, 2025, they had 78 stockholders and 408,550 shares of common stock. That's a lot of shares out there. They don't expect to pay any dividends. Alright, buckle up for management's discussion and analysis, MD&A for short. They've been losing money every year since their beginning, a huge red flag. They had a net loss of $4.8 million in 2024 and about $100,000 in cash, but have about $17 million in current liabilities. Management has stated that they have substantial doubt about their ability to continue as a going concern. That's about as blunt as it gets. Their net loss was $4.8 million in 2024 compared to $8.2 million in the year prior. That's a positive signal, but they still are losing a lot of money. There was no revenue recorded as compared to $70,000 received from the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority for certain services. Also, research and development expenses decreased significantly due to expenses related to their OT-101 drug being borne by the JV now, as the company continues to move assets and people to the JV. They just received approval of the GMP facility in California, which is great. The company recorded an impairment of about $3 million on their goodwill due to a reduction in stock price. This is an accounting item and not cash flow issue. Interest expenses are down about $200,000, but there were decreases in reimbursement for expenses and increases in value of derivatives on debt. The JV initiated a phase 2/3 clinical trial for pancreatic cancer and is actively seeking participants to enroll into the study, while enrollment has been slow due to a smaller patient population. O101 is believed to be an immunotherapy agent against brain cancer and glioblastoma. A phase 2 study showed disease control and that OT101 results in durable CHR-PRSD, complete response, partial response, stable disease for patients with RO-HGG, high-grade glioma. The company might receive half of the value of the rare pediatric designation for pediatric DIPG upon sale with a maximum payment of $50 million. We were also looking at OT101 for long COVID-19 with BARDA, Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. They got drug manufacturing licenses in San Diego, California. The company entered into a partnership with Shanghai Medikilon to get access to ND platforms to support up to 20 R&D projects. There are unfavorable global epidemic and pandemic conditions. The company can be affected by earthquakes or other natural disasters. Their disaster recovery plans may not adequately protect them from a serious disaster. We don't have time to go through all those details, but the high-level key numbers were extracted and covered. Internal controls. Again, they have a lot of issues here. They admit their internal controls over financial reporting are a mess. Not good. This includes a lack of formal policies, independent directors, and segregation of duties. It's worth noting they have a plan to remediate and address the material weaknesses. One thing to note, the company has elected not to use the extended transition period when adopting new financial accounting standards. There are no documents incorporated by reference. Now, let's get to the people running the show. Some of the names mentioned are Von Trieu, Amit Shah, Saran Sond, Anthony Maida, and Stephen King. They've got experience in biopharma, finance, and AI. Also, some central MRI reading was performed. Just a reminder that as of 2024, the company is not a shell company. On the good side, they have a corporate code of conduct and ethics. Now let's see how much they're paying their top people. Here are the executive salaries. The CEO was paid about $450,000 at the start, with $320,000 for the CFO at start. These salaries are in the past, since all the employees have been transferred to the JV and had their compensation borne by the JV. A past US presidential administration made statements about attempting to repeal RCA, which increased market volatility. Their success will depend on access to licenses, to patents, and trade secrets. If they're unable to obtain regulatory approvals, the company will not be able to market and sell their product candidates. Many factors could negatively impact the market price for their common stocks, such as bread conditions in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology sectors. General economic industry and market conditions. Oncotelic is a smaller reporting company. Has elected not to use the extended transition period for complying with any new or revised financial accounting standards provided. The entity does not have any reference for documents, but the exhibit index may not be a complete list. One last data point, the aggregate market value of the company's stock, held by non-affiliates as of June 30, 2022, was about $5.6 million. That's pretty small. Now, let's step back and assess Oncotelic. This company is a real gamble, a high-risk, high-reward play in the biotech world. On the one hand, they're chasing those rare pediatric disease vouchers, which could be a goldmine. Their joint venture seems like a good way to share the risk and bring in some funding. But the financial situation is shaky, they don't have enough cash, and their accountants are worried about their ability to keep going. They are relying on funding from other sources, and if they don't find them, the house of cards could come crashing down. But if they can get a drug approved, things could turn around quickly. It really comes down to how well they can manage their cash, get those regulatory approvals, and how successful the JV turns out to be. If you like to play it safe, then you might want to steer clear of this one. But if you're feeling like a bit of a risk taker, well, it could be worth a look. Thanks for tuning in to Corporate Decoder. If you enjoyed this financial adventure, be sure to smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of corporate filings.